And we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our ED on Air session. Today, we have a really interesting topic that we're covering, which is how to connect with your students and foster well being through Google Meet and Google Chat, which are two of my favorite tools. Before we dive deeper, I would like to welcome my amazing guest, Mohammed Chatila. He is the head of education and development at Wijha Training Center, and he's also GEG Saudi leader. Mohammed, thank you for joining me today. Mohammed, you're muted.
Hi, Lubna. I hope you're doing great, and thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much. So, before we dive deeper into every single key point, today we're going to be talking to you about why connection matters. We know that all of the teachers are like, or some of the teachers have virtual lessons with their students. I'm going to be talking about myself since I'm based in Kuwait. We have virtual lessons we started a couple of months ago because of the current situation. Mohammed, you're based in
Saudi Arabia, and some
Saudi.
of the
Yes.
schools
So, what
here
about
moved
schools
to
there?
some of them moved to online learning, and some still went to schools in person.
Amazing. So we have like all schools that switched to distance learning. So as you
Yeah.
know, teachers have like virtual lessons. Students join those lessons every day. So that is why I believe that this topic is quite relevant to me. But before we dive deeper and talk about the tools as tools, I believe that there are some other important topics that we need to cover first, things that we barely talk about. So we need to talk about why connection matters with your students, why every single student should feel noticed, seen, not just present during those virtual lessons. We'll be talking about our students' belonging and well being, and how, after your virtual lesson ends, you should continue connecting with that student and have like a set of like things that you need to discuss with that student. And I believe that today you're going to be sharing amazing examples with us as well, right? Okay.
Yes.
So, Mohammed, let's start with the first key point. Why do you think connection matters?
Connection matters, Lubna, because it boosts the mental health of our children, if we are teachers, and of us as well as educators and administrators. And we have to talk about humans before moving into the tools like Google Meet or Google Chat, because humans, teachers, and students and administrators will be living in that digital space. So it shouldn't be like empty or cold. It should be lively, and this is all about the genuine human connection, which is the foundation that teachers and educators can build with their students.
I love that, Mohammed. And you know why? Because I believe that, or what I've seen is some of the teachers just caring about having students like present behind the screens and like knowing when to unmute their microphones, when to have their cameras on, and just follow those set of rules. But we never think of like how that student should feel present. And I believe that there's something you would like to share with us as well regarding this.
Yeah. Yes, Lubna. Let me first tell you that presence is not the same as connection. So, just because your student is standing inside the building, it doesn't mean that they feel at home. So, there's a sus here, which is the psychological safety. And this would help the student feel like home and feel the real person they want to be, and being able to project their unique personality into that digital space that we're talking about today.
I love that. And how can we help students project their personal or unique personalities, as you said? Like, for example, that student who is behind the screen, if that student needs support, how would the teacher know that the student needs support when they have like many students appearing in those like tiles? And we can have some students having their cameras off. How would I, as an educator, know that that student needs support or needs my support?
That's an amazing question, Lubna. To do that, we need to empower educators and teachers. So I'm here, and I hope a lot of teachers are here with us listening to that. Amazing teachers, right now, without clear boundaries, you may end up spending a lot of time reading unwanted emails, sending rubrics million times, and sharing information about the next school trip. So If you do that, and despite the fact how good intention, you have to take good care of the students, if you're overwhelmed and exhausting yourself with those tasks, you might miss on quiet things like whispers, for example, Lubna. Do you think that a student would come raising red flag and telling you that I'm struggling? They would never
What
do
I know
that.
is that my son would never do that. Yes,
Okay,
that is
so
right.
these whispers, like a missed assignment, for example, is a whisper. Showing up late to the class or to the Google Meet is a whisper. And being completely silent in a video call is also a whisper. These whispers that shows us that these students are really in need for help.
Amazing. I love that. If every single teacher who is joining us today would just like just notice those small whispers, as you said, that would be great. Then you would know how to support that student or whether that student needs your support or not. I loved that, Mohammed. Thank you so much for sharing this.
Thank you,
And
Lubna.
this, I believe, takes us to a really important key point during today's session, which is belonging and well-being. How do we make sure that we care about our students' belonging and well-being, Mohammed?
So, Lubna, we need to know first that belonging is the rich, warm soil that the students need, and this can happen actually while using Google Meet and Google Chat. So, making sure belonging is there is mean us educators are creating that space for the students where they have where they have the ability to express their unique personalities and show as real people. So by this, they will feel respected, valued, and definitely empowered to be themselves, Lubna.
Amazing. I
And
love that. So just like sharing rules with them, even though I know you disagree with me, we had this discussion before. You're okay with teachers sharing like virtual lessons rules and what they should do when they join the virtual lesson and so on. But we should also like care about students' well-being and belonging because I believe that, as you said, those small whispers would get us to know that that student is facing a certain difficulty, whether it is something that he doesn't understand, whether it is something that he's facing back home, maybe like he's feeling somehow like not comfortable. So that is when we need to intervene. So you're definitely right. And I believe that
thank
there is a framework that you would like to share with us today. So can you tell us more about it?
Yes, yes, Lubna, thank you. I would like to share a framework. If you educators can apply or can follow, it could help you, especially with the tools that we prepared for you today. Um, my advice for you is to start with connect, continue, and care. What do you think,
Amazing.
Lubna?
I would say connect is like you continue connecting with your student beyond your virtual lesson, for example. And then you continue connecting through Google Chat, and you're going to explain more regarding this. But when it comes to
Yes.
care, what do you mean? Like, can you elaborate?
Yes. So thank you for sharing. Uh, we will use Google Meet definitely to connect with the students, and we will continue by using Google Chat. And we need that care the teachers will need to provide by setting those rules and boundaries, Lubna. And this would be the strong roof protecting the teachers and protecting the students, protecting the teachers from exhaustion and protecting students from being overwhelmed with that digital noise that they might witness. And when we build that, I like to call Google Meet like a living room because I want educators to feel that connected with the students with Google Meet, definitely. So they will be teachers and students would have organized shelves, and these shelves are our Google Chat,
Okay. I love the simile. So like Google Meet is like a living room, and then you'd have like the space
the
chats
shelf.
as shelves. Amazing. And maybe the care is like the roof, maybe.
Exactly, it is the roof protecting
Amazing.
teachers and students.
Amazing. I love that. I love that. Thank you, Mohammed. So I believe that introduction, before we dive deeper into knowing all of the features for the two tools that we're sharing today, Google Meet and Google Chat, was quite important because sometimes we just like get super busy and we miss that important factor or those like key points, which is like caring about our students' mental health and well-being. But now let's dive deeper and talk about Google Chats and Google Meets features. So Mohammed, today you're going to be sharing some examples on how teachers can use Google Meet beyond just it being a video conferencing app. So can you share some examples with the teachers watching us today?
Definitely, Lubna. Besides conferencing with parents and with other teachers, educators can use Google Meet to have that live presence with their students, especially when they had to move to the virtual learning. So this where they can look into the eyes of the students, can see them, and also students can be able to see those teachers who they really missed, and they can share their slides, their knowledge through their devices and through sharing screen features in Google Meets. Additionally, Lubna, something I love and something I always do in my Google Meets, which is the check-ins using polls. I add polls to check in on my students when the lesson starts to see where they are on their energy, how are they feeling, and I ask them how they are feeling. And they can answer from the polls. I can build on my session and start finding the right way to kick off my session.
I love that. I love this idea. And like maybe even if we have a parent teacher conference, for example, it can be run virtually as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Have you tried this at your school before?
Definitely, Lubna. We needed this virtual learning, virtual meets, because especially when using Google Meets, because we need to make things more productive, and this could save us time and waiting when it comes to using these tools uh, like Google Meet.
Amazing. I love that. Okay, so let's dive even like deeper and talk about like some of my favorite tools. We know that Google Meet is not just a video conferencing app, but it does have tools that would enable students to find it as an accessible tool. So even those shy students who are sitting behind their screens, switching off their cameras, they need to find a way to interact and like engage and answer questions, right? So can you provide us with like some of the tools that would eliminate any barrier the student might face or like feel like this is stopping me from answering a question or I'm too shy to raise my hand? So what do you think?
Yeah, thank you, Lubna. Captions actually is a feature that students can use and teachers to read the transcript of the teacher and also to translate up to 70 languages that it has access to, whereby no matter what language you speak with your students, they will be able to understand when they read it based on their native language, and they would enjoy the lesson, not feeling being left out. And additionally, there's a feature that I love as well is Gemini Notes, where Gemini can take notes during your session and can transcribe your conversation with your students, so that shy students who didn't have the chance to raise their hands and ask questions live, being shy for being judged, they would definitely go back to their notes and check what they have missed and answer their questions by themselves.
I love that. You know that the translated captions is one of my favorite features. I've had a session before, which was in Arabic, and I had like English speaking participants joining, and they were about to leave. But before they do, I just told them, by the way, like you have the translated captions feature, and you can just enable it so that you'd be able to like understand what I'm saying. And that made them stay in my session. So that is why I really love it because, as you said, it just eliminates that
Mm.
language barrier. So that is incredible. And for the Gemini notes, I love it myself, even though sometimes I'm the presenter in the session, but I love receiving that email with the Gemini notes to like read a summary of all the key points that we've discussed together. So it is quite impressive too. So since we were talking about the translated captions, we would like to show you that video that would help you know how it works on Google Meet. Let's take a look at this.
Hi, Camilla. Let me turn on speech translation. It's nice to finally talk to you.
Es bueno hablarte finalmente. No puedo esperar a alquilar tu casa.
Te vas a divertir mucho y creo que te va a encantar. You're going to have a lot of fun, and I think you're going to love visiting the city. The house is in a very nice neighborhood and overlooks the mountains.
That sounds wonderful. Is the house
Eso suena
close to public
maravilloso.
transportation,
¿Es la
or
casa
do you
cercana al
recommend
transporte
renting a car?
público o recomiendas alquilar un coche?
Hay un autobús cerca, pero there's a bus nearby, but I would recommend renting a car so you can visit the nature and enjoy it.
That sounds great.
Eso suena genial.
So this is how the speech translation
I love
works.
it.
It is quite impressive, as you said. Yeah, same here. So if you guys haven't used Google Meet before and you've been using like different video conferencing apps, you can just scan the QR code and give it a try. And like that would help you even apply while we're like talking about all of the features, like see the features and test them out yourselves. So what other participation tools are you planning to share with us today, Mohammed?
Yes. So Google Meets thought about many things for both educators and students. One of them is the participation tools such as raising hands, where it minimizes the noise, where everyone just randomly open their mics, and also reacting. So at Google Meet, there are emojis that students can press to react if they really are shy on to say yes, I agree, or they can use their thumbs up. And this would definitely create less pressure on those students, and they can use it to show that they are present during this session. Additionally, a feature that I adore in Google Meet, which is the breakout rooms where students can be grouped, and so that shy students who don't really like to talk and express themselves in a big room where all the students are there, they can enjoy staying in that small groups where they can have certain activities that they're doing with their peers. So it will, yes, definitely reduce the pressure for shy students.
I love the breakout rooms, by the way. But before we talk further about breakout rooms, I believe that you mentioned something about check-ins.
Yes, this is
So
something
I believe this is what we're seeing. Can you like explain?
Yeah. So as you can see here, I did use polls to show to ask questions to my students and get immediate feedback, and I can immediately build on the answers that I'm receiving from my students after I check in on them, and I can kick off the session with showing that I really care about them.
What is your energy level? I love that. If like every single teacher would not just like start right away by sharing the screen and like ask such a question so that they would know how students are feeling like before they even get started, that would definitely make a huge difference. This is incredible. Thank you so much, Mama, for sharing. And since you've talked about breakout rooms as well, I love how it is quite easy to set up breakout rooms on Google Meet. So you can just like select the number of breakout rooms you would like to set up, and all of your participants are going to be distributed like randomly to different breakout rooms. And later on, if you would like to change like the groups or the group members, you can easily drag and drop and move a certain member to a different breakout room. So, and I love the idea of the breakout room, especially for shy students. I used to teach like shy students who did not used to unmute their microphones except when they are in a breakout room. So that gave them the chance to use their voice, you know what I mean, and collaborate
Yeah.
and work on a certain project, share their screens and so on. And the fact that they have that ask for help button as well, that they can just like hit and then get the teacher to move from the main screen and come to their breakout room and provide further support, that is great, since they cannot or they don't feel like asking the teacher some questions while they are in that main Google Meet window. So this is one of my favorite tools, honestly. It's amazing. So Mohammed, can you tell us how we can add like an extra layer of security to our Google Meet sessions? Because I know that this is
Yeah.
something that worries a lot of teachers.
Yeah, it does. So, to teachers and educators, it's easy now with Google Meets to control everything in the room. As you can see here, you can disable the mic, disable the videos to minimize distraction and focus on lecturing instead, or sharing the information rather than being distracted. You can control who's in, who's out, and you can definitely add collaborators to join you in the session. So this would help you focus and help you be the most productive teacher during your session.
I love this. And I need to tell you that like my teachers used to care about like those settings. They used to worry too much, and they're like, "Can I, for example, disable chat if like students used it excessively? Am I able
Yes.
to like mute all students at the same time? Is there something that would just ensure that only students in my Google Classroom would be the ones joining my Meet session?" So all of those features that you're dreaming of are there and available on
Yeah.
Google Meet. So you would have a safe digital learning environment, which is amazing. And that takes us to the last um, like key point that we're going to be discussing and covering today, which is what happens after we end that Google Meet session. After you hit the end button, what do you do? How do you continue connecting with your students? How do you continue following up with them? So can you provide us
I
with
don't
some
think. Yeah.
examples or ideas?
Sure. Sure, Lubna. I don't think the Google Meet will end or the lesson will end. The learning experience would move on despite that. Google Chat, remember, Lubna, we mentioned Google Chat is like the shelves. So if you are in my living room, you can go to the shelf and borrow any book that you can access, even if you are not in my living room. So this keeps learning continuous. This would keep you on notes. This would keep you on tasks the teacher added or the files the teacher shared during the lesson. So learning would never stop after Google Meet. It will continue using Google Chat with all the possible features that Google Chat provide us. So
I
continuity
love that.
matters.
Of course. And like for all the educators who are joining us today, if you do not know like how the Google Chat like works, or you've never used it before, so here in your Google Meet session, you're using the chat box so that you can text students, ask them questions, for example. They can text you back replying. But after you end the session, you can take it over to Google Chat. And if you've never used Google Chat before, it is even an app that you can download. So in Google Chat, you have amazing features. You're able to continue, as Mohammed has mentioned, sending files to your students, like typing announcements and messages, and to have like a separate section that would keep all of your files, documents, PDFs separate so that they would just seem organized, not like in between the chats. And there's that amazing feature that I love about Google Chat as well, which is the tasks tab. And when I used to teach, I used to make my students work on projects. And I used to have a space chat for every single group. And they used to be assigned certain roles. So I used to have a student who is the note taker, another one who's the recorder, a third one who is the leader, and so on. And the group leader used to assign roles or like tasks to the rest of them. So, for example, if they're working on a presentation, they can assign certain slides to one group member, like slide 3 and 4 to the second one, and so on. And then the best part is that when they are done working on their task, they can just like check it as completed. So you as the teacher, you would be able to check like what is going on and see like the progress in real time. So that is just incredible. I love it. And I believe that you wanted to share a like use case study with us today, Mohammed, that is really important for all educators who would like to get started to learn about. So
Yes. Thank you, Lubna, for sharing. And some educators or some school leaders think that, yeah, Google Meets is amazing, but we have a massive district. We don't have a small school. Let me share with you this school with 300,000 students and connecting 25,000 teachers. This is the Chicago Public Schools. And they offered a credible example of how these communication tools can be really supportive. And the feedback we get is amazing. You can see the research by scanning the QR code down there. And definitely those amazing educators at this school and amazing students were able to communicate clearly and using and relying actually on Google Meet and Google Chat as their shared tools. So they made support easier and they were coordinating in an amazing way.
amazing. And if you would like to read the full article, you can just scan that QR code in the lower right corner so that you can read more about that case study on Chicago Public Schools. So that takes us, Mohammed, to the closing message. And thank you so much for like sharing all of your thoughts and ideas and the similes that you've used. I loved the descriptions as well. What would be that closing message to everyone who's joining us today? What would you tell them?
I would tell them, because I know they fear technology, I would tell them technology is amazing. It is useful for education. It helps students feel that they are noticed, especially with the integration of AI when we are talking about Gemini in Google Meets. And these tools are there definitely not to replace you. They are there to support you. Just you need to know more how to use them. And definitely, Google Meet would help you stay present at the moment with your students, and Google Chat will keep you continuously communicating and sharing files and tasks with your students. So
Amazing.
thank you.
Amazing. So I would say that they do not just use the tools for the sake of using technology. They can just go beyond that and use them to their full potential. And like if schools would like to start tomorrow and they've never used like any of those tools before, so I believe, Muhammad, we can just advise them to start with one meet routine, right? So one consistent live pattern, like the check-in example that Muhammad has shared with us today. One chat space as well. That would be your purposeful place for reminders, files, and even like students working on projects there, so that you would be able to like follow up and follow along as well. And as you said, when you mentioned the framework, care, which is having one set of norms, setting up those clear boundaries so that students and teachers would not feel overwhelmed. So I love that, Mohammed. Thank you so much for joining me
Thank
today.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us as well. And we would like to remind you that we have some amazing topics and upcoming sessions. So make sure that you join our session on May 5th on video content creation with Gemini, Notebook Kalam, and Vids, my favorite AI tools. And we have another one on May 12th on how to explore Google for Education tools that can enhance your assessment strategies infused with AI. And if you have any questions, you can leave them in the chat. I believe that like our team is already answering like any question that you have. And as we said, if you would like to get started and like have someone help you with your Google for Education journey, make sure that you scan those QR codes. If you would like to contact a Google sales specialist or would like to find the right Google partner in your region, you can scan the first two QR codes. And we would love to hear from you as well and listen to your feedback. So please make sure that you scan the last QR code. Yes, Mohammed.
Thank you, Lubna. I think we have one question, Lubna. And as people are asking, of all the things you've talked about today, what is one thing you couldn't live without in your day-to-day teaching? Let me ask you, and then I'll give it
You
an
answer
answer.
first. Exactly. You answer first.
Okay, I believe Gemini. Actually, I can't live without Gemini because now it's embedded in all Google Workspace tools like Docs, like Sheets, like Google Meet, even. So whenever I have a meeting, it's Google Meet. Whenever I have to write documents, it's Docs with Gemini embedded in that. Whenever I want to write email, Gemini is always there to help me. So I would say Gemini, and definitely with the Canvas feature, creating all the
Okay.
files that I need. What
I
about
would
you, Lubna?
add what you said and say Gemini gems because like nowadays students like love using guided learning tool. And if you're not familiar with guided learning tool in Gemini, make sure that you join our upcoming sessions so that you would learn more about how guided learning can help students and act as a private tutor, and students would be able to like get answers to their questions, as we said, beyond the Google Meet session. They would have like someone who would help them independently. So that would be my answer as well.
Amazing. I love gems too.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you're amazing. Thank you so much, Mohammed.
Thank you, Lubna.